Hello, everybody. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about choices. And to start off, we're going to take a look at a picture, just a drawing of a bunch of kids hanging out in a tree, some of them literally hanging, right? So there's 12 people in this picture. Which one of these characters do you relate to the most? If you had to be one of the people in this picture, who would you be? And why would you choose to be that person? And what would you do next? So if it were me, I'd probably be the person reading the book. Or maybe the kid with the binoculars looking off into the distance. And maybe the one climbing right to the right of the one with the book, climbing up higher into the tree. And I think what would I do next? If I was the one climbing the tree, I'd keep climbing until the branches were too thin to support my weight, and I'd come slowly tumbling back down. If I were the one with the binoculars, if I saw something cool in the distance, I might get down off the tree and go check out what it is I saw with the binoculars. So in this exercise, you get to choose who you want to be and what you want to do. And it's the same with life. You get to choose the person that you will become in your life. So think about how the character in the picture that you chose represents you and represents who you want to become. Now I'm going to continue reading from Mark, and this will relate back to our discussion on choices, starting at chapter 8, verse 27. Jesus and his disciples went into the villages. On the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do these people say that I am?" They told him, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets." He asked them, "And what about you? Who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." Jesus ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then Jesus began to teach his disciples, "The human one must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and the legal experts, and be killed, and then after 3 days rise from the dead." He said this plainly, but Peter took hold of Jesus and, scolding him, began to correct him. Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, then sternly corrected Peter. "Get behind me, Satan. You are not thinking God's thoughts, but human thoughts." So in this passage, Peter says that Jesus was the Christ. Or in some translations, it says that he's the Messiah. Now, the word Messiah is from the Hebrew that means the chosen one or the anointed one. The disciples were Jews who were waiting for the Messiah. They thought that Jesus was the one who had come to destroy the Roman government and rule as king. So we're going to continue to read from Mark to explore what happened next. So let's pretend that we are the disciples, and we have been following Jesus as he traveled around preaching and teaching and healing the sick. And we're pretty convinced now that, yes, Jesus is the Messiah. He is the Christ, the one from God that we have been waiting for. And now Jesus has something to tell us. After calling the crowd together with his disciples, Jesus said to them, "All who want to come after me must say no to themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. All who want to save their lives will lose them, but all who lose their life because of me, because of the good news, will save them. Why would people gain the whole world but lose their lives? What will people give in exchange for their lives? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this unfaithful and sinful generation, the human one will be ashamed of that person when he comes in the Father's glory to the holy angels." So Jesus had made an important decision, right? He had decided he chose to follow God's call, even if it meant death. Jesus was asking the disciples to make a choice too, to say no to themselves, to carry their crosses, and to follow him. I'll read that part again. All who want to come after me must say no to themselves, take up their crosses, and follow me. So this must have been a really hard choice for the disciples, right? How do you make a choice like that? Particularly when the results of such a choice could lead to death. Now, we all have to make choices every day, and we're all influenced by other people in these decisions. So who is it that influences us? And how do we know if we are following our hearts and if we're following God in the decisions that we make in our lives? Well, we are called to make many choices in life, but we don't make those choices alone. So we have our families, our friends, we have our church family, we have just the circumstances around us and the communities around us which we're born into. And we also have the continued support of God. So whenever you have to make a choice, even if it's to choose to accept something that you didn't decide upon yourself, then you can remember that God will always be there to support you. Now, I want to go back and look at a bit of this text in the context of how we make choices. So Jesus says in this passage to the people with his disciples, he says, find it, all who want to come after me must say no to themselves. What exactly does that mean? Is he saying, forget yourself, you shouldn't believe in yourself, you shouldn't love yourself? No, of course not. He's not saying that at all. It's more, because that would be crazy, it's more about letting go of yourself to find the greater connection between all of us. So it's more about focusing on the connection between all of us. And it means you shouldn't worry about superficial things about yourself. So how smart you are, what you look like, or the pressures of other people saying you should be this, you should be that. Those things aren't important. And you should pay more attention to the you and that you is how you interact with others and what's in your heart. That is your true self, what's in your heart and how you interact with those around you, and not those more superficial things. So that's what Jesus is getting at there when he said to say no to yourselves, which is sometimes it's translated as forget yourselves or deny yourselves. It's more deny yourselves. It really means focus on how you are connected to those around you. And I came across a wonderful quotation by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and was a peace activist. And he said these words that I thought summed it up quite nicely. True self is non-self, the awareness that the self is made only of non-self elements. There's no separation between self and other, and everything is interconnected. Once you are aware of that, you are no longer caught in the idea that you are a separate entity. So when you make choices, to bring it back around to choices, right? When you make choices, it's not just about you. So any choice that you make will affect others as well. The word ego can be a negative word. You've probably heard someone says like, oh, he or she has such a big ego. But it doesn't have to be negative. So because it's important to love yourself and to believe in yourself and all that you're capable of doing, that's not a bad thing. That's good. When it becomes a bad thing is when it turns into selfishness. And that's when you think that you're so amazing that you're better than everyone else. So it's a little bit of a subtle difference. But you should believe in and love yourself, and believe and love those around you as well. So think of love your neighbor as yourself. You need to be able to love and help yourself if you're going to be able to help those around you. So I want to go back to this quote again one more time. So I'll read it through again. And think about, as I read it, think about how, think about Jesus' words when he says, say no to yourself. And it's sort of reflected in this passage of Thich Nhat Hanh here, when he says, saying, don't get caught in the idea that you're a separate entity, because we're all interconnected. True self is non-self, the awareness that the self is made only of non-self elements. There's no separation between self and other, and everything is interconnected. Once you are aware that you are no longer caught in the idea that you are a separate entity. Once you are aware of that, you are no longer caught in the idea that you are a separate entity. So I really enjoyed that quotation of Thich Nhat Hanh and thought it was appropriate for this lesson. So I hope you'd enjoy it too. So that's all for this evening. Have a great week. Be kind to yourselves, believe in yourselves, and believe in others. And I'll see you next time. Bye.